blender, and he's off to the races. This will be 6. What a play! 82 yards.
Without further ado, let's get into the 2022 Rookie Dynasty Superflex mock draft. So I'll be getting the first pick today, and then you'll get alternating picks. So I'll go with pick 1, you'll go pick 2, and so on. So with the first selection, I will be taking Breece Hall. So he's going to get that first or second round capital in the NFL draft. I think he's a top 5 running back in Dynasty, to be honest. He's got a 4.39 40-yard time. He's 5'11", 217 pounds. He's got that elite size for the NFL. He's got a BMI of 30 plus, which is another green tick in my book. He's another couple fun facts for you. No fumbles in college. In his 3 years in college, no fumbles whatsoever. So definitely secure with the ball. Not going to have his coach hating on him too much for that. I'd personally compare him to Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know if he'll have as good a running back season this year as Zeke did in his first year, but I think he'll be a top 5 running back for the future, as I previously said. So, yeah, the sky's the limit for him. He will not bust. There have been that many running backs with that size in terms of BMI, that speed, and yeah, that receiving capability and the draft capital he's going to get. They have all not been bust. The worst in those was Rashad Penny, who's had a lot of injuries, but there's been 5 or 10 that have all been all pros or had fantasy running back 1 seasons. So another thing to mention is receiving game. 36 receptions, 302 yards in his final season. That's pretty good for a running back, I'd say. Very promising signs. Not just a rushing back, he can receive and catch. So he also had 1,500 yards in his last season, and 1,400 rushing yards this season just gone. So to go along with 2 consecutive seasons of 20 plus rushing touchdowns, I think he's a lock at pick 1. I think he'd be consensus in your book, Carl, but yeah, if Buffalo select him, his stock's only going to go higher, and I'm going to say it on the record, if you take him with pick 101, he will not be a bust. Blame me if he is, and you take him, but he is a dead set certainty of being a gun running back, and he will not bust. I'm so confident on that one, Carl.
No, you've definitely got a good one there for sure. Like you said, if he lands at that Buffalo, he's gonna have open so many running lanes. Obviously, with them being a very good passing team, adding that running game in there, they're going to be a deadly team to face. And then obviously he's going to flourish in that sort of system as well.
He'll definitely get a lot of the ball on the goal line as well. Josh Allen throwing the ball, going to get a lot of touchdowns this year. So yeah, if he goes pick to the Bills, well, sign me up, Carl. I'm taking him in every league I can.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? So pick 2, I've gone with Kenny Pickett. Some people may be surprised why I haven't gone with Malik Willis at this spot. I just feel that Kenny Pickett is the most NFL ready-made quarterback in the draft. 42 touchdowns last year and 7 interceptions. That's just remarkable in a college season. 6'3" as well compared to Malik Willis 6'1". He's able to serve those D lines a bit easier, and he can escape the pocket as well if it collapses. Not as good as an athlete as Malik Willis, but still a super athlete in his own right. He's an accurate passer with a completion of 67.2% in college last year, so he's definitely accurate with his passes. Like I said, Pickett is most ready-made. Malik Willis has a higher ceiling, I believe, but Kenny Pickett in a pass-heavy NFL, as we know, I believe that translates better into the league. So if he lands at one of those teams like Carolina, Atlanta, or Seattle,
even Pittsburgh, I'd say.
Even Pittsburgh, he's every chance to be that number one quarterback coming into the season, and he's going to make an instant impact on any of those teams that he goes to. And he's definitely a franchise quarterback in the making.
Yeah, love the pick, Carl. I think maybe a slight reach. I'm a massive Malik Willis fan, but definitely if it wasn't Willis, it's going to be Pickett going in there. So, yeah, I think that's a great pick, and I think he'll be in the league for 5 to 10 years as a starter at the bare minimum. Huge upside, and he's going to get that capital invested in him. So he's going to start for at least 3 years, even if he is going to be a bust. Because that team ain't going to start him for 3 years if they're investing picks in top 10. So, yeah, I think great pick. So pick 3, previously mentioned Willis. He's going to go first or second quarterback off the board in the actual draft. He's a phenomenal athlete. I know he didn't test on the combine, but his ceiling is through the roof. He looks like Lamar Jackson, maybe considered a discount version of him, may be considered as a Jalen Hurts, who I'm not a fan of, and I know Carl definitely isn't a fan of. But
definitely not.
I think he has to go here. His ceiling is just too high not to want. I've shown Carl a few highlights. I'm sure he's seen him before that, but he's just phenomenally quick. Like, I can't even explain it. It is fantastic to watch. So if he does become a bust, I just want to see some of those highlights. So I think he can be a top 5 quarterback in the league in terms of fantasy potential. He had 850 rushing yards last season. Taking into account he got sacked a fair few times, so it would have been well over 1,000 minus that. His arm strength is elite, as he showed in the combine. The only real question mark, the thing that a lot of people don't like, is his arm accuracy. But if he gets into the right system, a Pittsburgh, a Seattle, one of those good, strong teams, they're going to work on it. And he's got that mould that he can be developed into that superstar quarterback. Whether he has to redshirt this year like Trey Lance this year, I think his ceiling is so high and he's an irresistible prospect. He really is. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch him play. I'm hoping to get him in as many leagues as I can. But he almost could go pick one if Breece Hall wasn't there. So, yeah, he is tantalising, Carl. He is tantalising.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That upside for sure is definitely why he's considered in that top first couple in the draft. And also, if he's under, like as you touched on with landing at Seattle or Pittsburgh, if that's the case, those experienced coaches in Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin can easily nurture Malik Willis and help him as those experienced quarterbacks before him, Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger. Obviously, they know what it's like to work with and develop good quarterbacks. So
definitely. One other thing I do want to touch on before we move on to your pick here as well, he did have an absolutely woeful offensive line. So he was running around everywhere trying to make those plays. So I think if he gets in a really good system and he has that time, he's going to make some really good passes, and I think those interceptions will drop, and I think his arm accuracy will improve. So I think that's definitely a positive for teams wanting to pick him up. If you can get him top 3, top 4 picks, his bust may be higher, but his boom could go through the roof, and it already is through the roof potentially. So I'm excited, Carl, and I'll let you get on to your pick now.
Yep, so with the 4th pick of the draft, I've gone with Drake London. So he reminds me so much of Mike Evans, 6'5", 220 pounds. He's just a mismatch for any cornerback in the NFL. You can just throw it up there, and you've seen in his highlights, one-hand catches and the likes, just toss it up there and he'll go get it. So, yeah. Also, in his last 8 games, that he played last season, he had 88 receptions, 1,084 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Before he did suffer that fractured right ankle. So yeah, he did impress that much during that time that he won the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. So yeah, that's why if he in that short of time he's impressed that much, you can't look past him, and you just have to look at his highlights to just see how much talent this guy has. And being only 20 years of age, the sky's the limit for him. Getting in the NFL this early and getting a taste of the league, this guy can be anything. And yeah, his ability to break tackles, as we've seen, you would have seen a clip of him breaking through about 7 blokes.
You showed me that one.
Yeah, he's just so hard to bring down, and a nightmare for any secondary. So yeah, that's why I've gone with Drake London.
He oozes class. Are you concerned with the injury at all?
Yeah, usually I am. I steer clear of picking blokes that have come off injury in the draft, just because obviously, you don't want them to bring those injuries into the league. But it's an ankle injury. If it was more a knee injury, you'd be a bit more concerned about him losing some speed or some agility and whatnot. But I feel like the ankle injury is not going to have too much influence on how he goes in the league. And like I said, he's impressed that much in an 8-game season that he played. So, yeah, that just shows that everyone's very confident that he's going to translate that into the league.
Yeah. Another thing I want to add, I think that's a fantastic pick, by the way. He broke out at 17. That's just incredible. In a good offense, he had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Pittman Jr. So they're not scrubs, those two. So to be performing at that high level as a wide receiver 1, yeah, he's definitely going to go quite high in the fantasy draft and the real draft. Could even be the first wide receiver off the board, I think.
Yeah, well, that's why I've done so.
Perfect. And with pick 5, I'll be taking Kenneth Walker III. He looks like a gun, Carl. I'm saying this about a few of these prospects. He will be good. He has that 3-down running back capability that you love to see. He's 5'9", 211 pounds. He's got that size. That means he won't get broken down in the league. He'll hopefully be injury-free for most of his career. So he'll get that first or second round draft capital. I don't know if he'll go first round, but he definitely should be going before the end of the second. So if he gets that, the team will have to have invested into him, and he should be getting that game time and opportunity. He won't be sitting behind someone, you'd think. Additionally, he looked phenomenal in college this year for Michigan State. 1,600 rushing yards, 18 touchdowns. There was a 94-yard rushing touchdown, which I saw the highlight of, and he just looks like a beast. He's a man on a mission. I was going to pick him with running back 1 at the start of this off-season, but Breece Hall's just impressed me too much that I just don't have that choice. But pick 5, phenomenal choice. There's only one real question mark on him. That's his receiving capabilities. He didn't catch a whole lot in college. He can catch. He's had a few catches and receptions previously, but I just don't know if he can take that to the next level. Look, I'm comparing him to J.K. Dobbins. I think he has that sort of potential. He's a similar player to Derrick Henry in terms of just rushing the ball. So, yeah, we'll see how he goes. Jonathan Taylor wasn't meant to be a receiving running back. Look at him now, though. He's a gun in that sort of field. So, we'll wait and see. I love to watch him. So, I'm hoping he goes to a team where he gets that opportunity and I get to watch him on a Sunday night.
Yeah, well, watching a few Michigan State games last season, he's just a big play potential, very fast feet, and he's just breaks down. He's hard to bring down.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, so you've got a good one there for sure. For my next pick, at pick 6, is going to be Desmond Ridder. This guy's just a super athlete, best quarterback athlete behind Malik Willis. We obviously don't know with Malik Willis because he didn't participate in that, but from the ones that did test, he was first in the 40-yard dash among quarterbacks, first in the vertical jump and the broad jump as well. So we just know that that just proves he's a supreme athlete. And the 22-year-old out of Cincinnati, he's just a straight-out winner. From his college, he went 44-6 in the 4 years as a starter, which was the third most in the school's history. And he was a perfect 26-0 at home. So that's what you want in a quarterback anywhere. He's defending that home field, and just knows exactly how to win. And that'd be great for any team that wanting to start or develop a winning culture. And he has that. Obviously, being a super athlete, he has that that dual threat, being a passer and also being a runner as well, which is very, very valuable in superflex fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've hit the nail right on the head with that pick. I think you'll get that first round capital that you're mentioning, and I think he does look to be all the makings of a good quarterback. I don't know if he'll start this year, but even if he doesn't, I think pick 6 is a fair price to pay for someone in this format of fantasy, the superflex format. Great pick on your part.
In saying that as well, his stock's also increased over the past week or month as well. Looks like he's going to be the third quarterback taken off the board. So in that regard, that ties in with your point that it's going to be a lot of capital for whoever picks him up. And in terms of those betting as well, my style, he's third quarterback off the board seems very likely for him.
I like it a lot, Carl. So next pick 7, I'm taking Burks. He's an absolute beast of a man as well, similar to Kenneth Walker. He's a bit taller, 6'2", 225 pounds. His size measurements weren't the same as we were hoping. We were expecting 6'4", but in the 40-yard time, 4:55 isn't the best time we could have hoped for. We were hoping in that 4:40. We were getting hopes up a bit too high. He was meant to go to the 101. He's dropped to the 107 here, Carl. So he's still got that elite size. Obviously, the combine didn't help him very much, but he was dominant for Arkansas. I remember watching a game against Bama. He took the piss out of him. I can't explain it. He dominated. It was fun to watch. So I love him. He's going to be a gun. He's got the potential to be a gun. He's got a higher bust rate than other wide receivers and quarterbacks and running backs in this class. But I think his boom side, he can be another AJ Brown potentially. He is very similar in terms of size, speed, and ability. I think he'll be a late first, which will be perfect for Kansas City and Green Bay to say, come to us. We'll have Aaron Rodgers and Mahomes passing it to you. So, definitely if they end up taking him, he's going to go a lot higher in these sort of mock drafts. But I can't see why we wouldn't be taking him here. 1,100 yards. He had over 40% of the college targets for this team. He earned that ball. Like, he demanded it. He was the best by a mile on that team. I know it's Arkansas, but he didn't have a quarterback throw. Imagine if he had a quarterback that could pass that ball. He could have had 1,600 plus yards. So, it's exciting, Carl. It really is. And, I don't know if you would have taken him here, but I think his ceiling's just too high not to take it, pick 7.
Yeah, for sure. And in saying that as well, having a good game against Bama, that's what you want against those tough defenses and good secondaries. You definitely want to prove yourself against those teams, so that obviously increases his stock. And as you said, 40% target share, that's just nuts. That's nuts.
Insane.
So, you got a good one there for sure. My next pick at pick 8 is going to be Garrett Wilson. So the 21-year-old from Ohio State, wide receiver, he's just lightning quick. He has wheels for sure. A 40-yard dash time of 4.38 seconds, which was the 7th best among wide receivers that participated in the combine. In 11 games this year, he had 70 receptions, 1,558 receiving yards, and 12 touchdowns. And I picked him over his fellow teammate Chris Olave, just from his ability to have a deadly catch, his yards after catch as well, and his big playability. So, and also he's always wanting to improve his game, and you can tell by his last 3 games of the season. He had 27 catches for 371 yards and 3 touchdowns just in those last 3 games alone. So he's gone to another level again with already those impressive numbers for the season. He's gone to another level and stepped up, constantly improving his game. So I think it's a no-brainer just to pick Garrett Wilson in this spot.
He's definitely got that X-factor ability. So, again, do you reckon he'd slide to a Kansas or a Packers, or do you reckon he'll go in the top 10?
Oh, look, he could. I don't know. Just depends on team needs and what they see. But there's, as you've alluded to with the Kansas City and the Packers, there's a spot right there for him to take. Obviously, with them losing Adams and Hill respectively. So, that could easily be an easy spot for him to slide in there, and a great quarterback for him to receive off. Either way,
definitely. I think it's a great selection at pick 8. So with pick 9, I'm going to be taking Spiller. So I know he's not as good as the other 2 running backs, and I tend to take my running backs first. But yeah, I think he's got all the capabilities that can make him a running back 1 in fantasy. Probably not this season, but he does have that receiving game capabilities. So I believe he had 20 plus receptions in each of his last 3 seasons, which is something NFL teams would definitely be on the lookout for, and you fantasy GMs would definitely want on your side. Additionally, I think he is a steal at this pick 109. I don't think there's too much talent around this pick that can match him. He's had 2 1,000-yard seasons in a row, goes at good yards per carry. I know that's not the be-all and end-all. A lot of players get that with a good O-line, but yeah, I just think he does have that potential to be a really good receiving downs back. I've seen a few comparisons to Kenyon Drake, but I think he can be much better than that, I really do. The only real question mark I've got on him as well is how's his body going to hold up? His size isn't as good, his speed's not as good, and if he doesn't get that capital, will he just be a backup his career? So I'm a bit anxious about that, but before a draft, if you're seeing him pick 109, you gotta lock on and take him, take that risk. He's got a high bust potential, but boy, if he pays off, he's going to be a running back 1 in fantasy. So yeah, I have no choice but to take him here.
No, definitely a good one for sure, and obviously those receptions in a running back is very handy. Push their scores up, obviously with the 0.5 points per reception. So. You got a good one there, another one for sure. Pick 10, I'm going to go with Matt Corral, so the 23-year-old from Ole Miss. Accurate passer of the ball, 67.9% completion, 3,349 passing yards, and 20 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions in last year of college. So he improved his turnover rate from 14 interceptions to only 5 from 2020 to 2021. So obviously improving his passing game and not biting off too much more than he can chew. So that shows also more maturity as well, being 23 as well, coming to the league. Along with those 11 rushing touchdowns, which was 6 among quarterbacks in college last year. So he's got that dual threat, which we know is very important in a superflex fantasy. Has that potential for being that dual threat. He gives me a bit of Baker Mayfield vibes just with his confidence, his ability to get out of the pocket. He probably has a better rushing ability in terms of touchdowns and running than Baker, but he's got a bit of swagger about him, which I like, and he's confident. He's not afraid of those big moments. So, if he was to go to a Pittsburgh or the likes of that, I could definitely see him performing well I
think that's a great selection as well. I know I've been saying that with all these picks. I think this class is heavily underrated, especially the quarterbacks. But yeah, I think his rushing upside does surpass Baker. I think he's more viable for fantasy teams. Whether a lot of these quarterbacks could redshirt this year, there's that potential just because they might not be ready. But I think their ceiling is so much higher than people make out. So look at last year, we had Trevor Lawrence, Fields, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones was probably the best in the class, but really none of them came on. None of them were relevant in fantasy. So I honestly don't think this class can be much worse than that, if at all. So I think there'll definitely be some good quarterbacks in there, and I think it's a great pick from you to be honest, Carl.
Yeah, all those ones that you mentioned from last year's draft, all very high, very highly touted prospects coming in. This not so much, but they still may be able to outperform. You just don't know. Like you said, everyone thought that Trevor Lawrence was going to go and dominate from last year, but he wasn't to do so. Obviously, found it a bit tough. And then the
life situation got him, I think, as well.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously the system might not have helped, but yeah, we saw Mac Jones, who was out of the 5 quarterbacks that did get drafted, maybe rated in coming to the league the worst, but seemed to perform the best. And I think, this might be Corral if he lands at one of those spots where he gets that opportunity straight away.
I definitely can see him being the top quarterback in this class. I know probably not next year he will be, but in the next 5 years, who knows? So I think if you're getting that pick, it's a steal. Really, any quarterback that goes in the first round should be taken in most rookie first round startups or draft dynasties. So the next pick I'm going to go with, there's a few on the board that I do still like, but I'm going to go with the quarterback train again. We're going Sam Howell. So yeah, he looked good a few years ago. Not so the last couple of years, but I think because he was meant to go pick 101 a few years ago, I know he slowly regressed, but talent doesn't just disappear. I think he will be good if put into the right situation in the league. If he goes to Pittsburgh, if he makes it into the first round, those teams will be investing that capital in him. And if he gets that, I think he can be honed in and developed into that QB1 sort of range. He had 800 plus rushing yards this season. That was the most he's had in college. But he really does have that upside for fantasy. So I love him as a prospect. We'll have to wait and see where he goes. But yeah, it's going to be interesting with how. I think it's more than likely he will be a bust. But at pick 111, you're going to have to take him. I think to get a quarterback in this year's draft that goes first round, I think he's got that upside that I'm after with all my teams. We all want those rushing quarterbacks that get you those fantasy points every time they march down the field. So yeah, I like him. So we'll have to see where he goes. But
yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, any quarterback that has that dual threat ability just raises their stocks in terms of fantasy aspect and their value. So yeah, definitely a no-brainer there. With the last pick of the first round of the 2022 Dynasty Superflex mock draft, I'll be going with Chris Olave from Ohio State, Wilson's teammate that I picked earlier, 21-year-old as well. Very similar stats to Wilson, 11 games, 65 receptions, 936 receiving yards, and 13 touchdowns. He's the best receiver in this draft in creating space, I believe. He reminds me very much of former Buckeye Terry McLaurin. Has that pace and that ability to turn defenders inside out. So I feel like it's a no-brainer to pick him up at this point in the draft if for some reason he hasn't been picked up at this point. A stat for you, Olave generated a step or more of separation on over 87% of his targets since 2019, which is the best in college for that time. So there's that just backs up the fact that he's just able to get that space away from the defenders, and yeah, that's crucial in the NFL. So it's a no-brainer to pick him at this point of the draft.
I think it's a very good selection. I think he'll go top 15. We'll have to wait and see. If he goes to a team like Philly, his stock's going to drop from there though. But yeah, I love the pick. I think he's got that talent. He was the wide receiver 1 in that team. So yeah, I think it's an excellent selection there, Carl. So that wraps up our first round of the 2022 Rookie Dynasty Superflex mock draft. So thank you for joining us. Our social medias will be in front, as you can see now. And yeah, we will look forward to joining you next week. And we will have part 2 for this draft. And yeah, so enjoy your week and we'll speak to you in a couple of days.